Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 14.2D. I've entitled this video, Changes in East Asia. This video is going to cover pages 444 to 445. Change in East Asia. Throughout much of its history, East Asia was mostly isolated from the rest of the world. High mountains, harsh deserts, and vast distances limited the flow of ideas and goods between the region and other parts of Eurasia. From the 1500s onward, however, increasing trade brought East Asian countries into greater contact with other cultures, especially Europe. Spheres of influence. By the early 1800s, internal problems had weakened China. Meanwhile, European countries were growing more powerful and making stronger claims. By the 1890s, European governments in Japan had claimed large areas of China as spheres of influence. A sphere of influence is an area of a country where a single foreign power has been granted exclusive trading rights. The foreign intrusion in their country made many Chinese people angry. Their anger fueled a revolution in 1911, and the new government could not control the country. By 1927, a military leader named Chiang Kai-shek had formed the nationalist government. Question number 1. Why was East Asia often isolated from the rest of the world for much of its history? A lot of times it had to do with the geography. Their high mountains, the harsh deserts, and the long periods of distance that it took to get there is a reason why it was isolated. Question 2. What impact did the isolation have on East Asia? Well, it kept them from getting the flow of ideas and goods that other parts of Europe and Eurasia had. Question 3. Why was China weak in the early 1800s? Internal problems, so basically infighting with their own people, had made them weak. Question 4. How did Japan and European countries take advantage of China's weakness? Well, they came in and basically bullied, as we saw with Africa, with imperialism. These different areas, like Japan and European powers, came in and created spheres of influence in China. Question 5. What is a sphere of influence? That is an area of a country where a single foreign power has been granted exclusive trading rights, and you can see with this map how China was carved up. Question number 6. Why were the Chinese people angry in the early 1900s? Well, they were getting sick of these foreign countries coming in and basically bullying them, just like we read about and when we studied with Africa. At some point, people have had enough and they fight back because they don't like the bullying, the imperialism that is taking place. Question 7. What military leader formed the nationalist government in China in 1927? Chiang Kai-shek. 2 Chinas. Meanwhile, Chiang's rival, Mao Zedong, gained support from Chinese farmers. Mao believed in communism, a system in which the government controls all economic goods and services. After years of civil war, the communists won power in 1949. They set up the People's Republic of China on the Chinese mainland. The nationalists fled to the island of Taiwan. There, they set up a government called the Republic of China. Question number 8. What Chinese leader was favored by the farmers? Mao Zedong. Question 9. What is communism? That is a system in which the government controls all economic goods and services. It pretty much goes against what we believe in, which is capitalism. Question 10. Which group won power in China in 1949? The communist. Question 10. Where did the nationalists establish the Republic of China? Well, they fled to the island of Taiwan. Rise of Japan. Around 1542, a Portuguese ship heading to China was blown off its course and landed in Japan. The traders on the ship became the first Europeans to visit Japan. Soon, more traders began arriving, along with Christian missionaries. By the early 1600s, Japan's rulers had begun to fear that European powers were planning a military conquest of the islands. They decided to isolate Japan by forcing all foreigners to leave, banning European books, and blocking nearly all relations with the outside world. Japan's isolation lasted for roughly 2 centuries. In 1854, U.S. naval officer Matthew C. Perry not to be confused with the Matthew Perry from Friends, sailed to Japan with 4 warships. He pressured the Japanese to end their isolation and open their country to foreign trade. Not long afterward, rebel samurai forced the shoguns to return full power to the emperor. Question number 12. Which Europeans became the first to visit Japan around 1542? Portugal or Portuguese? Question 13. As traders started to arrive in Japan, what missionaries arrived in Japan too? Christian missionaries. Question 14. What 3 steps did the Japanese rulers take to keep Europe from conquering Japan? Number 1. They said, foreigners, you must leave. Number 2. They banned European books. And number 3. They blocked nearly all relations with the outside world. Question number 15. In 1854, what country came to Japan with 4 warships? Our very own United States. Question number 16. What 2 impacts did Matthew C. Perry's trip to Japan have on Japan? Well, number 1, Japan was forced to end their isolation, and number 2, they were forced to open their country for foreign trade. Recognizing that European countries were far more advanced and powerful, Japan set out to transform itself by learning everything it could about the West. The country soon became an industrial and military power, and it began developing an empire. By 1940, Japanese forces had gained control of Taiwan, Korea, parts of mainland Asia, and some Pacific islands, as you can see on the map. This expansion was one factor that led Japan to fight the United States and its allies in World War II, with that attack on Pearl Harbor pictured in the newspaper headline bottom left. Question number 17. What did Perry's visit to Japan make Japan realize? It made them realize that Europe was far more advanced and powerful, and this whole isolation thing couldn't work. They had to get modern, and they had to change their ways. Question 18. What steps did Japan take to catch up to the West? They tried to learn as much as they could about how the West had become successful, and they transformed their country into an industrial power and a military power, and they started to create an empire. Question 19. What aggressive behavior had Japan taken by 1940? Well, they started to conquer lands around them, places like Taiwan, Korea, and parts of mainland Asia, and then some Pacific islands. And question 20. What country did Japan attack at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy? The United States. Well, thank you so much for watching. Before we go, I wanted to show you that, yes, they did attack us at Pearl Harbor, but in the end, we got our revenge by defeating the Japanese at the end of World War II. We'd already taken over Germany and Italy, and they were the last foe to fall to end World War II. Well, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.